Alright guys, now let's move on to the next section, which is 904. Now, you three, please pay attention. This is not easy.
Okay, boss.
Okay, three different type of separation of data. Now I use the word separation. It's because all of them represent some cutoff of data. Okay, so they are quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. Okay, now let's start with quartiles. Correct. Quartiles separate all. Yes. So quartiles separate all 25%, I would say 25% of scores. To be more accurate, I should say 25% of the data. In other words, the word quartile means a quarter, which is 25%. Okay, so let's call first one the lower quartile, which we represent as Q1 or Q low or QL. Big one, always. No way. L. So in other words, now let's have a look. Q1, which is the lower quartile, it separates the bottom 25% of score. Now we have done this in year 10, so it is basically the first line of the box and whisker plot. This is the second piece of information in the so-called 5-figure summary. Q1 or QL? Yes, we'll do an example to deal with Q1, Q2, and Q3. No, this is not an example yet. Okay, let's have a look at the little one. Now, the middle quartile, which is also the median. It is exactly the median, or sometimes we call it Q2. Now, it is basically the middle of the score. It separates the next 25%, which in other words, the 50% of the score. The next 25% is done in this case. Correct. Or median. When it is called median, basically it's a median because it's the middle one. Last one, we have the upper quartile, which is Q3, or we call it QU, stands for upper quartile. Now it separates the top 25%. In other words, if you count it from the bottom, it separates the bottom 75%. So Q3 separates the bottom 75% or the top 25%. They are the same thing anyway. Okay? They are the same thing. So let's make an easy example right here before I move on to the example 9. So for example, if I have 2, 4, 8, 11, 13, 14, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just make this example. Okay? Make it easier. 20. Now, if I place these 9 numbers in order already, to find our median should be really easy, which is the middle number. In this case, it is 13. Correct. So we call this Q2. Now, how do we find Q1 and Q3? Correct. So basically now, write this down, guys. Now, Q2 is the middle of all scores. After finding Q2, now it can be separated into two. Q1 is the middle, yes, of the bottom half. What do you mean there's no middle? You still have a middle. For example, if there's no 13 in this score, in the scores here, there's still here. This is still the bottom half. What do you mean? Sure. But can I finish this example first? But his face was so serious. My goodness. So therefore, in this case, now, after Q2, basically you need to disregard it. We don't consider Q2 when you find Q1 and Q3. So in other words, we only consider this half and this half. So in other words, in this case, after getting Q2, this is Q1, which is the average of 6 or 4 and 8 gives you 6. In other words, you're finding the median again of the top half. And Q3 would be the median of the Q1 is the median of the bottom half, and Q3 would be the median of the top half. So therefore it is 17. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's make, you want an even number set of numbers. So let's say 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8. Now let's make it easier. In this case, Q2 is right here. Pardon? Oh, sorry. Okay. Bring it up a little bit. Okay. Okay, now so therefore, in this case, if we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, the Q2 is the middle average. It's not the middle number, it's the average of the middle two numbers. Make sense? So after getting Q2, you separate into two parts. This is the bottom half, this is the top half. Again, Q1 is again the median of the top or bottom half, and Q3 would be the median of the top half. Yes. It doesn't, because technically saying, for this second set of data, 4 and 5, they are not the median, right? We only exclude the median. But the median doesn't even exist. Technically doesn't exist in this data set. Does make sense, guys? So in other words, we don't include the median to find Q1 and Q3. But in the case of the median doesn't exist, we kind of just ignore it. Yeah.
So like if the middle of 1 and 4 or 5 and 1.
Correct. Basically, you find median 3 times.
How's the middle of 5 and 6?
The middle number. It's the median. It's not the average. So this is already placed in order, right, Brandon? So 6 is the middle number. Alright guys, now, in other words, you need to pay attention. This would go into the video. Now, this score here, it separates the bottom 25%. So in total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 scores in total. And this score here, it separates the bottom 25%. And some number, imaginary number in here, separates another 25%, which contributes to the 50% of the scores. Yep. And when we move on to Q3, it separates the bottom 75% of the score. In other words, it is the top 25% of the score. Okay, let's have a look. An example. Example 10. Now, find the quartiles for each of the number below. Should be pretty straightforward, but the very first thing we need to do, we need to arrange them in ascending order first. Arrange them in ascending order first, so the first one should be 38, isn't it? 39, 41, 43, 46, 51, 57, 60, 61, 64. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, lucky. I never got this right. Now, once you have arranged them in ascending order, to find Q2, which is the median, should not be too difficult, which is the middle number, the median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Q2 should be in here. Because we don't have that middle number, it's the average of the middle two numbers. So Q2, it is 46 plus 51 divided by 2. That equals, is it? I don't know, I'm not sure. Good on you. Okay, now guys, you can draw a line in here after doing Q2, because that separate the whole data sets into two halves. The bottom half and the top half. Now, therefore, this is basically Q1. It is the median of the bottom half, and that is the median of the top half. Lord, wake up. So again, I repeat. Q1, Q2, Q3, because they are called quartiles, they are related to quarters. In other words, they separate every 25% of the score. Q1 separate the first 25, Q2 separate the next 25, which add up to 50, and Q3 separate another next of 25 that add up to 75% of the score. Now, we have done pretty well in these 4 sections. So, I think if we have enough time, I might go back to do a small revision of the 4 section next time. So basically we're using 3 lessons to do 4 section, which is still pretty efficient. I think they're faster. He is. You haven't?
Yeah, you're like a younger, less Mediterranean.
Guys, I'll give you 1 more minute. Please copy that down. Yes. Okay, so now we have these numbers. So small numbers shouldn't be too difficult to find. So you start with 3. How many 3 do I have? Oh my goodness, I can't do this. It's killing me. How many in total, Brandon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, bravo. God bless me. I can't do that.
And if the number's in the middle of the two, like in this situation,
Correct. Two, 3, basically 6. Does it make sense, guys? Is that okay to get Q1, Q2, and Q3? We did this in year 10, so it shouldn't be too difficult. However, when we move on to deciles and percentiles, it is a little bit different, but they're basically the separations of certain percentage of scores. That's all. Are we okay? Okay. Now, after quartiles, let's have a look. We have deciles. So deciles separates data into tenths. In other words, Q1, Q2, Q3, they separate into every 25%. D1, D2, D3, they separate into 10%, 20%, 30% of the data. Okay. So, for example, D1 cuts off the lowest 10% of scores. Make a D4 in here. The lowest 10% lowest. Now, guys, so Q1, Q2, Q3 they separate every 25%, which is their quarters. But D they separate every 10%. So therefore D4 cuts off the lowest 40% of score. Does it make sense, guys? Basically, if you have 10 score, the D4 would be the 4th one. That's what we're saying. And D9 would be the 9th one. Of course. Oh, it's I this is just example, Brandon. I should list them from D1 to D9. It's 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. Does it make sense? So those are just some example I gave you, but it doesn't have to be these three. I can ask you simply. So basically, when we move on to percentiles, it actually makes sense because percentiles covers everything. It starts from 1% to 99% basically. Okay, so let's have a look. Example 11 together. Example 11 together. Rod, seriously, the video is not for you to blood in class. It's just for revision purpose. Rod, wake up. Wake up. Okay. Is that okay? Alright. Can I cover this now? Is that okay, Zoe? Good. Alright, now, so let's have a look. Please, example 11, guys, I need you to place them in order first. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 20 scores in total, so be careful, don't miss any of them. Place them in order, and then we can easily find the third, the fifth, and something else. And in this particular question, we would be asked more than finding D1, D2, D3, something like that. We would be asked which score actually separate them. Separate them. Okay, now let's have a look. First of all, we need to place them in order. Let me do that. 44, 45, 47, 48, 48, 48, 49, 49, 49, 50. 50, 50, 51, 51, 52, 52, 52, 53, 55, and 56. Alright guys, now all the numbers are arranged in ascending orders now. First question. We need to find out pardon. Yeah, no. But we started late today. We started at 9:15 today. That means I still need to go through what I need to go through. You know? I know. Alright, let's start. The first one. What is the third decile of the data, which is the third percent? Yes. So guys, now first of all, because we have 20 scores, so the total number of scores is 20. So every 10%, that means 2 scores. Yes? Does it make sense? So let's write it down in here in our data. So this would be D1. This is D2. This is D3. D4. D5. If you keep doing it like that. And D6. D7. D8. D9. And we don't have D10. Sorry. This is D9. Okay, again, we have 20 scores. In other words, every 10% of score represents 2. 2 scores. obviously D3 now. D3 is the middle of 48 and 49 over 2, which is 48.5. This is kind of pretty much the same way we do quartiles, but instead of separate the whole data set into 4 different quarters, we separate it into the same tenths. So part B, if we're finding the fifth deciles, it's right there. So fifth decile is 50 over 50 plus 50 over 2, which is obviously still 50. That's the second part. Is everybody following? Okay. So next, what is another name for the fifth decile? So in other words, what does D3 or D5 call? Remember, D5 separates the middle 50% of the score. Okay? Median. No, it's not. I know what you mean, but it's not. It is not. It is close, but not. D3 separates the first 30%. Q1 separates the first 25. So it's close, but it's not. Don't worry. Okay. So D5 basically is the median because it separates the middle 50% of the score. Is that okay? Good. What are you doing? You are not copying that down. Rod. Okay, let's have a look. Part D. Part D. Now, find the value that separates the bottom 70% of length from the top 30%. Remember, the 70%, the bottom 70% basically means it's D7. Make sense, guys? Remember, whatever number stays right next to the D, it is that number 10th of the score. So if you want to separate the bottom 70%, it is D7. So D7, it is the middle of 48, no, sorry, 52 and 51, which is 51.5. Here. That's D7. Alright, very last question. If the length of newborn baby James is in the top 10% of infant length, what value must it be greater than? So, the very last bit separates the top 20%, oh sorry, top 10%, it's D9. So, the number of D9, yes, correct. So therefore, James's length must be greater than 54 centimeters. Okay, so now I guess we should stop now. Yeah, but shall we finish example 12? I don't want to leave like just one single example out. Okay, let's heat it up. Okay, we'll take probably another 5-6 minutes. What? to do that. I don't know how to do that.
No, just go ahead. Just like,
No, I won't.
so he wants to.
Okay, guys, next one before we hit example 12. The last bit today, it's percentiles. Now, quartiles separate every 25%. Deciles separate any 10%. Percentile basically separate every 1%.
There's gonna be so many of them.
Yeah. But they won't ask you that. That's the thing. They will ask you the understanding. So, for example, P24 cuts off the lowest 24% of score. It's basically just what we did before, but now it's more detailed because it's separated into every 1%. Yep. And P60 cuts off the lowest 60%, or basically the top 40% of scores. Now, I won't write too many, those are just examples of percentiles. Can anyone give me a name of P25? P25. P25. You can just, yes, Q1, which is called the upper quartile. So what about P50? Yes, the low quartile. Sorry then, low quartile. What about P50, guys? What do we call P50? Median. Q2, not Q1. Middle 50%. So therefore, in other words, P75 would be Q3, the upper quartile. Same thing. Alright, let's hit example 12, we'll be done. Okay, now, please read the following information, it's important. The height of girls aged 16 years, the median is 163, Q3 is 167, D9 is 171, P5 is 152, and P97 is 175. Okay, this question is given all sorts of information about Q, D, and P. First of all, now, Holly's height is 175 centimeters. Is she tall for her age? And what percentage of 16-year-old girls are taller than her? Now, she is tall because 175 basically means it's here. No?
He says that as he is. He is the 175.
I'm the what?
So it's like 165.
I'm like 168, which is Q3.
Three of girls. 16 of girls.
I am short. I know I'm short. Alright, guys, we don't have a lot of time. So, Holly is tall. Holly is tall because she stands at the top 3%. Basically at the cutoff. Because P97 is 175 centimeters. No. We are using the data, that's right. So Holly is taller than 97% of girls. Yes, her age. It's a 5. So only 3% of girls are taller than her. guys, next. Olga is taller than 90% of her girls her age. What is her height? Oh, what is her height? So she's taller than 90% of the girls. So you're looking for P90, which is the same as D9. Make sense, guys? P90 is the same as D9. Does it make sense, Harvey? Because remember, D separate every 1/10, P separate any 100. So therefore, what we're looking for is 171 centimeters, which is given in the question. Says D9. The question didn't give us P90, but it's exactly the same as D9. Okay. So let's have a look part C. If 1/4 of the girls are taller than Verity, how tall is she? So 1/4 of the girls is taller than her. So we're looking for correct Q3. Very good. So which is here. So P75 is exactly the same as Q3. That is 167 centimeters. So therefore, Verity is 167 centimeters tall. Don't forget to answer the question, yeah? Let's have a look part D. What height separates the bottom 5% of heights from the top 95%? So we're looking for P5. And in here, P5 is right here for us. That is 152 centimeters. Pretty easy. Bottom 5%. Bottom 5% is just P5. P5. Make sense? Okay. Very last one. What percentile is a height of 163? So we give this 163 in here, but in this question it is called a median. But the median is also P50. That's right. So therefore, 163 centimeters. We need a name of percentile. Is the median, or called the 50th percentile. That's it.